I was sitting at my desk when the photo came through. My phone buzzed, and there they were, my entire family laughing on a pristine beach in the Bahamas. Mom, Dad, my sister Sarah with her husband and kids, my brother Michael with his wife and their twin boys. Everyone looked tan, relaxed, and genuinely happy. The text underneath read, "Wish you were here, but I knew better. They didn't wish I was there at all. For 23 years, I've been excluded from every single family vacation. Every trip, every getaway, every chance to make memories together. You never fit in on trips, Harry, my mother always tells me. It's better if we don't take you." Today, staring at that photo, everything changes. Today, I decide enough is enough. The exclusion started when I was 12 years old. I remember the exact moment because it was the first time I realized that being someone's son didn't automatically mean you belonged. We were sitting around the kitchen table, and Dad was spreading out brochures for Disney World. My heart raced with excitement. Mickey Mouse, Space Mountain, all the rides I'd seen in commercials. I started talking about which attractions we should visit first, how we could get fast passes, maybe even stay at one of the resort hotels. "Harry, honey," Mom interrupted, her voice taking on that patient tone she used when she was about to deliver bad news. "We've been talking, and we think it might be better if you stayed with Aunt Ruth this time." "What? Why?" The words came out higher pitched than I intended. Dad cleared his throat. "You complain a lot, son. About the heat, about walking, about waiting in lines. We just want this to be a special trip for Sarah and Michael." I was 12. Of course I complained sometimes. All kids did. But somehow, my complaints were different. Somehow, my discomfort was a threat to everyone else's happiness. That Disney trip set the pattern for the next 2 decades. When I was 15, they planned a 2-week road trip to Yellowstone. I found out about it 3 days before they left when I overheard Sarah talking to her friend on the phone. "Oh, I can't hang out next week. We're going to Yellowstone." "No, just me and Michael and Mom and Dad. Harry's staying home." The Europe trip happened during my senior year of high school. 3 weeks touring London, Paris, and Rome. A graduation present for the family, they said. Except not the whole family. I graduated with honors. Got accepted to my first choice college. But somehow I wasn't worthy of celebrating with a European vacation. Instead, I spent 3 weeks that summer working at the local grocery store, bagging groceries, while my family posted photos from the Eiffel Tower. College didn't change anything. If anything, it got worse. They started planning trips around my schedule to make sure I couldn't join even if I wanted to. Spring break in Cancun happened the week before my finals. A summer beach house rental was scheduled during my internship. They'd call me from these amazing places, voices bright with excitement, always ending with, "We'll have to plan something for you later." Later never came. In my 20s, I tried everything to prove I had changed. When they planned a ski trip to Colorado, I took skiing lessons and bought all my own equipment. I called Mom 2 weeks before and told her I was ready, that I wouldn't complain about the cold or being tired. "Oh, sweetie," she said, "we already booked the cabin. There's only room for 6 people. 6 people. Mom, Dad, Sarah, her husband Tom, Michael, and his wife Jennifer. The core family, they called it. I wasn't part of the core. I brought my girlfriend Emma to Christmas dinner 2 years ago, thinking maybe if they saw I was in a stable relationship, if they saw I could be normal and social and pleasant, things would change. Emma was charming. She complimented Mom's cooking, laughed at Dad's stories, played games with the kids. After dinner, I overheard Mom and Dad in the kitchen. "She seems lovely," Mom said. "Much more pleasant than Harry usually is. Maybe she'll be a good influence on him," Dad replied. Though I don't know if that would be enough to make family trips work. Even with Emma there, proving I could be the person they wanted me to be, I still wasn't enough. Last Christmas, I found out about their week-long skiing trip to Colorado through Instagram. Sarah posted a picture of the whole family on the slopes with the caption, "Family Ski Trip, 2023, Making Memories." I called Mom immediately. "Why didn't you tell me about Colorado? Harry, we've been through this. You don't like skiing. You'd just be miserable and make everyone else miserable too. I took skiing lessons. I told you that 2 years ago. Well, it's too late now. Everything's already booked. Everything was always already booked. The timing was always wrong. I always wouldn't enjoy it, wouldn't fit in, would somehow ruin it for everyone else. I'm 34 years old now. I have a good job as a marketing manager at a tech company. I've been with Emma for 2 years, and she's the most patient, understanding woman I've ever met. I have friends who include me in their plans, colleagues who invite me to happy hours, a life that proves I'm not the difficult, complaining person my family seems to think I am. Emma has watched this pattern for our entire relationship, and her frustration grows stronger each time. Your family treats you like garbage, Harry, she told me after the Colorado incident. My family would never do this. No normal family does this. She's right, of course. Her family has welcomed me from day one. Her parents ask about my work, remember things I've told them, include me in group texts about family plans. When they have gatherings, they automatically set a place for me at the table. It's such a simple thing, but it means everything. But here's what really broke me. Last month, Sarah was complaining about something during our weekly phone call. Yes, we still talk every week, because I keep trying to maintain these relationships despite everything. She was going on about how weird it was having Michael's wife's parents on their recent lake house trip. Wait, I said. Michael's in-laws were there? Yeah, Jennifer insisted. It was so awkward. I mean, we barely know them, and there they were, taking up space in our family house. Our family house. Our family trip. They took Michael's wife's parents, people they barely knew, on a family vacation, but their own son still wasn't welcome. That's when I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. This wasn't about me complaining, or not fitting in, or ruining anyone's good time. This was about something deeper, something broken in the way my family saw me. I wasn't just excluded from vacations, I was excluded from belonging. The phone call with my mother the next week was the moment everything changed. I'd spent days thinking about what Sarah had said, about Michael's in-laws being included while I remained excluded. I needed to understand the logic, if there was any. Mom, I want to talk about the lake house trip. Oh, it was wonderful. The weather was perfect, and the kids had such a great time fishing. Sarah mentioned that Jennifer's parents were there. There was a pause. I could practically hear her calculating what to say. Yes, they were. Jennifer really wanted them to experience the lake house. But you've never invited Emma's parents. You've never even suggested it. That's different, Harry. How is it different? They don't have your negative energy. They appreciate what we do for them. They're grateful. Negative energy. After 34 years of trying to figure out what was wrong with me, she'd finally said it out loud. I had negative energy. I wasn't grateful enough. The problem wasn't my complaints or my lack of compatibility with family trips. The problem was my fundamental nature, my energy, my very existence in their space. What negative energy, Mom? What exactly do I do that's so terrible? You know what you do, Harry. You always have something wrong. The room's too hot, the food's too cold, you're tired, you're bored. Nothing's ever good enough for you. I thought about Emma's family gatherings, how I never complained about anything because I was too grateful to be included. I thought about work trips, how my colleagues often commented on how easygoing I was, how flexible and positive. The negative energy didn't exist anywhere else in my life. When was the last time I complained about anything during a family event? Christmas dinner. You said the turkey was dry. I remembered that. The turkey was dry. It was overcooked. And when Mom asked how it was, I'd said honestly that it was a little dry, but still good. Emma had kicked me under the table, but it was too late. Mom, you asked how it was? I said it was a little dry, but good. See? There you go. Negative energy. My father got on the phone then. He always backed up Mom in these conversations, as if they were a united front against their own son. Harry, your mother knows what's best about these family dynamics. She has good instincts about what makes trips work and what doesn't. Dad, do you think it's normal to exclude one child from every family vacation for over 20 years? We don't exclude you. We invite you to things that are appropriate for you. Like what? What have you invited me to that's appropriate for me? Silence. Emma was in the kitchen during this call, and I watched her face change as she listened to my side of the conversation. She'd heard about my family's behavior, but this was the first time she'd witnessed it in real time. Her expression went from concern to shock, to something I'd never seen before, a kind of fierce protectiveness. After I hung up, she sat down next to me on the couch. "Harry, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without getting upset." "Okay. I've been keeping track of how your family treats you. I started doing it because I wanted to understand the pattern, but also because I was worried you couldn't see how abnormal it is." She pulled out her laptop and opened a document. It was a timeline, meticulously detailed, starting from when we began dating, December 2021. Harry mentions family skiing trip he wasn't told about, found out through social media. March 2022. Family spring break to Florida. Harry not invited. Parents called him from beach to check in. July 2022. 2-week European cruise. Harry not invited. Sarah posted 43 photos on Instagram. October 2022. Weekend in Nashville for Sarah's birthday. Harry not invited. Mother said it's just immediate family, but included Tom and Jennifer. The list went on and on. 27 separate family events, trips and gatherings I'd been excluded from in just 2 years. Emma had documented not just the exclusions, but the explanations, the patterns, the emotional impact. "Emma, why did you make this?" "Because I love you, and because I'm going to ask you to marry me." My heart stopped. "I'm going to propose to you, Harry, but before I do, I need you to see this clearly. I need you to understand that this isn't normal, that this isn't your fault, and that when we build our family together, this pattern ends with us." I stared at the timeline, at the stark evidence of my exclusion, laid out in black and white. 27 times in 2 years my family had chosen to leave me out. 27 times they'd made a conscious decision that their experience would be better without me. "I can't marry into a family that treats my husband this way," Emma continued. "But I also can't let you keep believing that you deserve this treatment. So I'm asking you to choose. Choose between trying to fix relationships with people who've shown you for decades that you're not welcome, or choose to build something new with me." That night, I called my therapist, Dr. Martinez, and scheduled an emergency session. I'd been seeing him on and off for years, mostly for anxiety and depression, but I'd never connected it to my family dynamics. "Harry, what you're describing is emotional abuse," Dr. Martinez said after I showed him Emma's timeline. "Systematic exclusion, scapegoating, conditional love based on impossible standards. These are classic patterns of family dysfunction, but they're not hitting me or screaming at me. Emotional abuse doesn't require physical violence. What you've experienced is a form of psychological abandonment. Your family has made you the repository for everything that goes wrong, everything that's inconvenient, everything that threatens their perfect image." I thought about being 12 years old, being told I complained too much, about being 15 and finding out about Yellowstone through my sister's phone call, about being 34 and hearing my mother say, "I have negative energy." "The question is," Dr. Martinez continued, "what are you going to do with this knowledge?" That's when I decided. For 34 years, I'd been fighting for scraps from people who saw me as a burden. Emma's family had shown me what it felt like to be welcomed, to be wanted, to be celebrated just for being myself. It was time to stop begging my biological family to love me and start building something real with people who already did. Emma's proposal came 3 weeks later at her parents' house during their monthly family dinner. She got down on one knee right there in front of everyone. Her parents, Robert and Carol, her brother Jake, her sister Amy with her husband and kids. Instead of the private moment I'd always imagined, it was this beautiful, chaotic celebration with people cheering and crying and immediately making plans. "We're having an engagement party," Carol announced before I'd even fully processed that Emma had asked me to marry her. 2 weeks from Saturday. I'll call everyone. "Mom, we haven't even set a date yet," Emma laughed. "Doesn't matter. We're celebrating that Harry's officially part of the family now." Officially part of the family. Those words hit me harder than the proposal itself. I'd been coming to their family dinners for 2 years, and they'd always treated me like family, but now it was official. Now there was no doubt that I belonged. Robert pulled me aside while Emma was showing her ring to Amy and the kids. "Son, I want you to know something. Carol and I always hoped Emma would find someone like you, someone kind, someone genuine. What your family did to you, that ends here. You're our family now." The engagement party was everything I'd never experienced. 35 people came to celebrate Emma and me. Her cousins flew in from different states. Her college friends drove down from Portland. Her grandmother, who was 91 years old, gave a speech about how love finds a way to heal old wounds. I called my parents to tell them about the engagement. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said, but her voice was flat. "Have you set a date?" "We're thinking next fall. We want to plan something special." "Well, let us know when you have more details." That was it. No congratulations, no excitement, no questions about Emma or our plans. When I told Emma about the call, she just hugged me. "Their loss," she said simply. A month after the engagement party, Robert and Carol invited us to their annual family reunion in Martha's Vineyard. It wasn't just dinner this time. It was 5 days at a rented house with 22 family members spanning 3 generations. "Are you sure you want me there?" I asked Carol. "That's a lot of people, and it's your family time." She looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "Harry, you are family. Of course we want you there." The house was incredible. A sprawling oceanfront property with enough bedrooms for everyone, and a huge kitchen where 3 generations of women cooked together. But what struck me wasn't the luxury. It was the automatic inclusion. When we arrived, Emma's cousin Tommy immediately grabbed my suitcase and said, "Uncle Harry, you're in the blue room upstairs. It has the best view." Uncle Harry. This kid who'd met me exactly 4 times in his life was calling me Uncle Harry. The first night at dinner, 22 people sat around a table that had been extended with card tables and folding chairs to accommodate everyone. I sat there listening to stories about family members I'd never met, inside jokes from previous reunions, plans for the week ahead. Nobody had to explain who I was or why I was there. My place was simply assumed. Emma's brother Jake treated me like we'd been brothers our whole lives. He included me in the morning runs along the beach, asked for my opinion on his work problems, automatically paired with me for the family volleyball tournament. It was the relationship I'd always imagined having with Michael, but never did. On the second day, I was helping Emma's grandmother Rose set up her easel on the deck where she painted every morning. She was 91 but sharp as a tack, with eyes that seemed to see everything. "You have a sadness in you, Harry," she said while mixing colors on her palette. An old sadness. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just helped her arrange her brushes. "I had a son like you once," she continued. "My middle child, James. His father never thought he was good enough, always comparing him to his brothers, always finding fault. It took James 40 years to realize the problem wasn't him." What happened to James? He built his own family, found people who appreciated his gentle nature instead of punishing him for it. He's 70 now, and he's the happiest of all my children. She looked at me with those sharp eyes. "Family isn't just blood, dear. Family is who shows up for you." That evening my phone rang. It was my mother. "Harry, we wanted to let you know we're planning a wine tour in Napa Valley next month. It's adults only, very sophisticated. I thought you should know in case anyone asks where we are." I was sitting on the deck, overlooking the ocean, surrounded by Emma's extended family playing board games and sharing stories. Her nephew Tommy had automatically saved me a seat for the evening card game. Her cousin Sarah was asking about my job, genuinely interested in my answers. "Thanks for letting me know, Mom. We thought about inviting you, but you know how you get around wine. You always say it tastes bitter. I actually love wine. Emma and I go wine tasting regularly, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about different varieties. But at family events, I'd always been nervous, always worried about saying the wrong thing, so I'd made cautious comments about drinks being too strong or too bitter. Those careful, anxious responses had become my mother's truth about who I was. "Okay, Mom. Have a good trip." After I hung up, Emma came over and sat next to me. "Your family? Napa Valley wine tour. Adults only. Very sophisticated." She was quiet for a minute. "You know what I realized this week? What? My family has spent more money making you comfortable and welcome as my boyfriend than your family has spent on you in 34 years as their son. She was right. Robert and Carol had paid for our flights to Martha's Vineyard, our share of the house rental, meals, activities. They'd spent probably $2,000 making sure I could be part of this reunion without any financial stress. My parents had never paid for me to join a single family trip. That night, lying in the blue room with the best view, listening to Emma sleep next to me, I made a decision. I was going to propose back to her, not just accept her proposal, but ask her to marry me in my own words, with my own ring, in a way that honored what she'd given me. And I was going to do it in a place that represented everything her family had taught me about love. But first, I needed to have one final conversation with my family. I needed to try one more time to understand why they'd chosen to exclude me for so many years. Not to change their minds. I was done trying to change their minds. But to get answers for my own peace. What I discovered would change everything. When Emma and I returned from Martha's Vineyard, I spent a week trying to find the right way to approach my parents. I wanted one honest conversation about our relationship, about the pattern of exclusions, about whether there was any possibility of change. I wasn't hoping for an apology or immediate inclusion. I just wanted to understand. But before I made that call, something unexpected happened. Emma's cousin David, who worked as a paralegal at a law firm in Seattle, mentioned something during our goodbye dinner that made my stomach drop. "Harry, didn't your grandfather pass away a few years ago? I remember you mentioning something about an inheritance." "Yeah, Grandpa Joe died about 6 years ago. Why?" "I was just thinking about estate law, about how inheritances work when there are multiple beneficiaries. Sometimes families don't handle those situations well." Emma caught my expression. "What is it?" "I never got any inheritance from Grandpa Joe. My parents said he didn't leave anything except his house, which they sold to pay for his care." David frowned. "That's strange. Usually when someone mentions an inheritance, there's some kind of documentation. Have you ever seen a will or estate documents?" I hadn't. I'd taken my parents' word that Grandpa Joe's final years in assisted living had drained his savings. It made sense at the time. Those places are expensive, and he'd been there for 3 years before he died. "Would it be weird if I looked into it?" David asked. "I mean, just to make sure everything was handled properly?" A week later, David called me with information that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. "Harry, you need to sit down for this." I was at work, but I stepped into an empty conference room and closed the door. "Your grandfather left a will, a very specific will. He left his house to your parents, but he also left a separate fund of $90,000 to be divided equally among his 3 grandchildren." My legs gave out, and I had to lean against the conference table. "What?" "30,000 each for you, Sarah, and Michael. The money was designated specifically for creating joyful family memories and experiences. It's been sitting in an account for 6 years. That's impossible. My parents said he didn't have any money left." "They lied, Harry. The estate was settled through their friend who's an attorney, probably a conflict of interest, but it was legal. According to the executor notes, your parents requested that your portion be held in trust because they were concerned about your financial stability and emotional maturity." I felt like I was going to vomit. "They've had my money for 6 years? Not just your money. They've been using it to supplement their own travel budget. I found credit card records that were part of the estate file. The executor had to verify certain expenses. Your parents charged several family vacations to a card that was paid from your grandfather's inheritance fund." The room was spinning. "They'd taken my inheritance money and used it to fund the family vacations I was excluded from. They'd literally used my own money to pay for experiences I wasn't allowed to share." "How much have they spent?" "About $25,000 over the past 6 years. Your portion plus interest is now worth about $35,000. Sarah and Michael received their portions immediately after the estate was settled. Sarah and Michael knew. They'd gotten their money years ago, and they'd said nothing while my parents held mine hostage. I called Emma immediately and asked her to meet me at home. When I told her what David had discovered, she was quiet for a long time. "Harry, this is financial abuse on top of emotional abuse. They stole your money, and used it to fund your own exclusion. That evening, I hired an attorney named Jessica Adams, who specialized in estate disputes. She reviewed all the documents David had found and confirmed everything. "This is going to be straightforward to resolve legally," she said. "The executor notes actually work in your favor because they document your parents' reasoning, which is entirely subjective and probably wouldn't hold up in court. But I have to ask, do you want to pursue criminal charges? Because this is potentially theft." I thought about my grandfather, about how much he'd loved all three of his grandchildren equally, about how he'd always made sure we each got the same number of Christmas presents, the same amount of attention, the same bedtime stories. He would be horrified to know that his gift to help us create joyful memories had been used to exclude one of us. I want my money, and I want them to face consequences. But I don't want to put anyone in jail. We can demand full restitution plus interest and damages without pursuing criminal charges. But your parents are going to know that you know. Good. It's time for them to face the truth. The confrontation happened on a Saturday afternoon. I called my parents and told them Emma and I were coming over to discuss something important. They probably expected wedding planning conversation. Instead, I walked in with legal documents and a recording app on my phone. "We need to talk about Grandpa Joe's inheritance." The color drained from my mother's face immediately. My father started to speak, but I held up my hand. "I know about the $90,000. I know about the $30,000 that was meant for me. I know you've been using my money to fund family vacations for 6 years. Harry, we can explain," Dad started. "Explain what? Explain how you convinced the executor I was financially unstable? Explain how you took money that was specifically meant for creating joyful family memories and used it to create memories without me?" Emma sat next to me, her presence steady and supportive. My parents kept looking at her like they were embarrassed to have a witness to this conversation. "We were protecting that money for when you got your life together," Mom said. "Grandpa Joe wouldn't have wanted you to waste it." "Waste it on what? I have a good job, a stable relationship, a savings account. What exactly makes me financially unstable?" "You never seemed grateful for what we did for you anyway," Dad added. "Every family event, you found something to complain about. Grandpa Joe left that money for family experiences, and you made family experiences difficult." Emma spoke for the first time. "Did Sarah and Michael complain at family events?" "That's different," Mom said quickly. "How is it different?" "They appreciated what we did for them. Harry wasn't allowed to appreciate anything because he wasn't invited to anything," Emma said, her voice calm but firm. "You excluded him and then blamed him for not being grateful for the exclusion." I pulled out copies of the credit card records Jessica had obtained. "This shows you used inheritance money to pay for the Bahamas trip, the Colorado skiing, the European cruise, and the lake house rental, where you included Michael's in-laws but not your own son." The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Finally, my mother spoke. "We made mistakes, Harry, but we were trying to do what was best for everyone. What was best for everyone was excluding me. You have to understand," Dad said. "Family harmony is important. Your energy just didn't mesh with vacation energy." "My energy," I repeated. "My energy that doesn't exist at work or with friends or with Emma's family, just with you." "That's not fair," Sarah's voice came from behind us. I turned around to see both Sarah and Michael standing in the doorway. They'd been called in for backup. "What's not fair?" I asked. "You're making us sound like monsters," Sarah continued. "We've always included you in holiday dinners and birthday parties, after explicitly excluding me from everything else." "Those trips were different," Michael said. "They required a different energy." "What energy? What exactly do I do that's so terrible?" None of them could give me a specific answer. They talked about my attitude and my complaints and my negativity, but they couldn't point to specific behaviors or incidents. It was all vague, subjective, impossible to defend against. That's when Emma pulled out her own folder. "I've documented 27 separate family events Harry was excluded from in just the 2 years I've known him. I've also documented how your family speaks to him versus how you speak to each other. Would you like me to read some examples?" The room went completely silent. "Here's how you told Sarah about the lake house trip. We're planning a week at the lake house in July. Can you and Tom make it work? Here's how you told Harry about the lake house trip. You didn't. He found out through Sarah mentioning that Michael's in-laws were there. Emma's documentation was devastating because it was factual, specific, undeniable. The pattern is clear, she continued. Harry is excluded, and then blamed for the exclusion. You've gaslit him into believing he's the problem when the problem is your treatment of him. My father's face was red with anger. We don't have to justify our family decisions to outsiders. I'm not an outsider. I'm Harry's fiancée. And after we're married, I'll be the mother of your future grandchildren. So let me be very clear about something. This pattern of excluding Harry stops now, or you won't have access to any of us. That's when my mother broke down and said something I'll never forget. We just wanted the trips to be perfect. Harry always found problems with things. The hotel room was too loud. The restaurant was too crowded. The activities were too tiring. It was easier without him. Mom, I said quietly, I was a kid trying to communicate my needs. When I said the hotel room was too loud, I needed help sleeping. When I said the restaurant was too crowded, I was feeling overwhelmed. When I said the activities were too tiring, I needed a break. Instead of helping me, you decided it was easier to leave me behind. For the first time in my life, my mother had no response. That's when Jessica delivered the final blow. She pulled out a copy of a letter that had been filed with the will but never shared with me. Your grandfather left specific instructions about Harry's inheritance. He wrote, I'm leaving this money specifically for Harry to find his true family and create the memories he deserves. I see how the family dynamics affect him, and I want him to have the resources to build something better. My grandfather had known. He'd seen the exclusion, understood the pattern, and left me money specifically to escape it. The revelation that Grandpa Joe had witnessed my exclusion and tried to help me from beyond the grave was the moment I finally stopped fighting for my parents' approval. They'd hidden his final gift to me and used his money to fund my continued exclusion. There was no coming back from that level of betrayal. Getting my inheritance back took 3 weeks and cost my parents an additional $12,000 in legal fees and interest penalties. Jessica made sure they understood the full legal and financial consequences of what they'd done. More importantly, she made sure they knew that Emma and I had documented everything and could pursue criminal charges if they ever interfered with our lives again. The $35,000 felt like more than money. It felt like my grandfather's final validation that I deserved better than what my family had given me. I used $5,000 to buy Emma the engagement ring she deserved, not the modest ring I'd been planning to afford on my own, but something that reflected how much she meant to me. When I proposed to her properly, at the exact spot on Martha's Vineyard where her family had first made me feel truly welcome, she cried for 10 minutes before she could say yes. Harry, you already proposed to me when you accepted my proposal. She laughed through her tears. This is different. This is me choosing you with my whole heart, with my grandfather's blessing, with the resources to build the life we deserve. Robert and Carol were the first people we called with the news that we were officially engaged both ways. Carol immediately started planning an engagement party that made the first one look small. When I mentioned that I wanted to use part of my inheritance to take Emma's whole family on a thank you vacation, Robert tried to talk me out of it. Son, you don't need to spend that kind of money on us. I want to. You've shown me what family looks like. Let me show you what gratitude looks like. The European vacation took 2 months to plan and was the most complicated logistical project I'd ever undertaken. 15 people across 3 generations, 2 weeks touring London, Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. First-class flights for the grandparents, 5-star hotels throughout, private tours and experiences that most people only dream about. I spared no expense because I wanted Emma's family to understand how much their acceptance had meant to me, but also because I wanted to prove to myself that I could create the kinds of magical experiences my family had always said I'd ruin. Emma's nephew, Tommy, now 13, became my shadow during the trip planning. He was fascinated by the logistics, the research, the way I coordinated schedules and preferences for 15 different people. Uncle Harry, how do you keep track of everything? Practice, I told him. And I care about making sure everyone has a good time. Is that why your family didn't take you places? Because you care too much? out of the mouths of babes. This kid had immediately understood what my parents never could, that my attention to details, my awareness of comfort and logistics, my questions and concerns came from caring too much, not too little. The departure day was chaos in the best way. Emma's entire extended family converged at the airport, excited and grateful and slightly overwhelmed by the scope of what we were doing. Her grandmother Rose, now 92, held my hand during takeoff. "Harry, dear, I want you to know that in 92 years, no one has ever done anything this generous for our family. You've done something more generous for me. You've given me a family." London was magical. We stayed at a luxury hotel near Hyde Park, and I'd arranged for connecting rooms so the different family units could have privacy, but still be together. The kids were fascinated by everything: the Tower of London, the British Museum, afternoon tea at fancy hotels. But what I loved most was watching the adults experience things they'd never expected to see. Jake, Emma's brother, had always wanted to visit the Churchill War Rooms. I'd arranged a private tour, and watching him walk through those historic spaces with tears in his eyes made every penny worth it. In Paris, I hired a photographer to document our family dinners, our walks along the Seine, our visits to the Louvre and Notre Dame. I wanted Emma's family to have professional photos of these memories, because they'd given me so many memories I'd never properly documented. Emma's cousin Sarah pulled me aside after our cooking class in Tuscany. "Harry, I need to tell you something. Emma told us about your family, about how they treated you. We want you to know that what happened to you was wrong, and we're honored that you chose to share this experience with us. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. You're not part of our family, Harry. You are our family." Meanwhile, my biological family's planned Napa Valley trip was falling apart. Sarah called me while we were in Rome to tell me they'd had to cancel because of budget constraints. "Mom and Dad spent too much money on legal fees," she said. "They can't afford the wine tour now." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Are you really sorry?" "I'm sorry you're disappointed. I'm not sorry they're facing consequences for their choices. This is really how you want things to be between us? Sarah, for 6 years you knew they were holding my inheritance and using it to fund trips I wasn't invited to. You said nothing. This is how things already were between us. I'm just not pretending anymore." Social media became my unintentional revenge. I hadn't planned it that way, but sharing photos of our European adventure with captions about real family and unconditional love made my message clear to everyone who knew our history. The photo that got the most attention was from our last night in Barcelona. Emma's entire family gathered in the hotel restaurant for a farewell dinner, and I'd had the hotel arrange for a cake celebrating the Richardson Family European Adventure 2024. In the photo, I'm sitting between Emma and her grandmother, surrounded by people who'd flown across an ocean because I'd asked them to, who'd trusted me to plan the trip of their lifetimes. Robert gave a toast that night that I'll remember forever. 2 years ago, Emma brought home this young man who was quiet and cautious, and seemed surprised every time we included him in family conversations. Tonight, that same young man has given our family memories we'll treasure for the rest of our lives. Harry, you've shown us generosity, thoughtfulness, and love that exceeds anything we could have imagined. We're proud to call you our son. Our son. Not son-in-law. Son. That's when I stood up and made an announcement I'd been planning since Rome. Before we finish this incredible trip, I have something to tell you all. Emma and I have some news. Emma's face went white, because she knew what I was going to say. We're having a baby. The eruption of joy around that table, the immediate celebration, the way everyone started talking about the baby, as if it were already the most beloved member of the family, that's what I'd been missing my whole life. That's what unconditional love looks like. Emma had found out she was pregnant 3 days earlier, and we'd decided to announce it here, surrounded by people who would celebrate this child from the moment of conception. Our baby would never know what it felt like to doubt whether they belonged. After everyone had congratulated us and the excitement died down, Emma's grandmother reached over and squeezed my hand. "Your child is going to grow up knowing they're wanted, Harry. What a gift that is. The greatest gift I can give them." That night, Emma and I walked along the beach in Barcelona, talking about our future, our growing family, the life we were building together. "Do you think your parents will want to be involved with the baby?" she asked. "I don't know. but I know I won't compromise our child's sense of security to accommodate their dysfunction. Good, because this baby is going to grow up surrounded by people who fight to include them, not people who look for reasons to exclude them. When we got back to Seattle, there were 17 voicemails from my mother and 4 emails from my father. They'd seen the social media posts, heard about the pregnancy through the local grapevine, and suddenly they were very interested in being part of my life. I didn't return their calls. Not yet. I needed time to process everything that had happened, everything I'd learned about myself and my family. I needed to figure out what boundaries would protect my growing family, while still allowing for the possibility of reconciliation. But first, I needed them to face the full consequences of their choices. Our return from Europe marked the beginning of what I can only describe as my family's panic. They'd spent 34 years excluding me with no consequences, and suddenly I had resources, a support system, and most importantly, the confidence to enforce boundaries. The voicemails from my mother started desperate and became increasingly frantic over the 2 weeks I didn't return her calls. "Harry, sweetie, we saw your pictures from Europe. It looks like you had a wonderful time. Call me back. Harry, it's Mom again. We really need to talk. There are things we need to work out. Harry, your father and I are very concerned that we haven't heard from you. We know about the baby, and we want to be involved. Harry, this is ridiculous. We're your family. You can't just cut us out of your life over money." The final voicemail was my father. "Harry, I'm coming to your office tomorrow. We need to have a conversation man to man." He showed up at my workplace on a Tuesday morning, demanding to see me like he had some kind of authority over my life. My assistant Sarah, not my sister Sarah, but a woman I worked with who understood boundaries, told him I was in meetings all day and could schedule an appointment for the following week. "I'm his father. I don't need an appointment." "Sir, everyone needs an appointment. I can put you on Mr. Peterson's calendar for next Wednesday at 2 p.m. When he finally came back for the scheduled appointment, I met him in the conference room with Emma present and my phone recording everything. I'd learned from Jessica that documentation was crucial when dealing with people who'd proven they couldn't be trusted. "Dad, what did you want to discuss?" "I want to discuss this ridiculous situation you've created. Your mother is beside herself with worry." "What situation have I created?" "You know what situation. This cold shoulder business. Refusing to return calls. Acting like we're strangers. Dad, for 34 years you've treated me like a stranger. Now you're upset that I'm not fighting for your attention anymore? That's not fair, Harry. We've always loved you. How? How have you shown that you love me?" He couldn't answer that question. For 5 full minutes, he sat there trying to find examples of love that didn't involve basic obligations like food and shelter. "We included you in holiday dinners," he finally said. "After excluding me from everything else, you included me in the 1 or 2 events per year, where my absence would be noticed by extended family. Your mother feels terrible about the inheritance situation. Does she feel terrible about lying to me? Or does she feel terrible about getting caught? Both. She wants to make it right. How?" Again, silence. Emma spoke up. "Mr. Peterson, Harry and I are building a family together. Our child will be your grandchild, but we need to know that you understand why your treatment of Harry was wrong before we can trust you around our family. What do you want us to say? We want you to acknowledge that excluding Harry from family experiences for his entire life was emotionally abusive. We want you to take responsibility for using his inheritance to fund his own exclusion. And we want you to commit to family therapy before you have any relationship with our child." My father's face turned red. "You can't keep us from our grandchild." "Actually, we can," I said calmly. "And we will, if you can't demonstrate that you've changed. This is blackmail." "No, this is protection. You taught me for 34 years that family relationships are conditional. Now I'm setting conditions of my own." He stormed out without agreeing to anything. 3 days later, my mother showed up at our apartment unannounced. Emma was at work, and I was home with a stomach virus, so I was not prepared for the confrontation that followed. "Harry, we need to talk about this baby." "What about the baby?" "Your father and I want to be grandparents. We want to be involved." "That's not up to you, Mom. That's up to Emma and me." We've already talked to Sarah and Michael. They think you're being unreasonable. Sarah and Michael received their inheritance money 6 years ago and said nothing while you stole mine. Their opinion doesn't matter to me anymore. It wasn't stealing, Harry. It was protecting. Protecting me from what? From making bad decisions with money. What bad decisions? I used the money to create beautiful experiences for people I love. Isn't that exactly what Grandpa Joe wanted? He wanted you to create family memories. I did create family memories. With my real family. That's when she lost control completely. Emma's family isn't your real family. We're your real family. You can't just replace us. I didn't replace you. You excluded yourselves. For 34 years you made it clear that your experience was better without me. Now you get to live with that choice. But the baby changes everything. No, Mom. The baby doesn't change anything about your behavior. It just gives you something you want access to. She started crying then, which she'd never done in front of me before. Harry, I know we made mistakes, but we love you. Do you? Do you love me? Or do you love the idea of having access to your grandchild? Both. Then prove it. Go to therapy. Work on understanding why you treated me the way you did. Acknowledge the damage you caused. Show me that you're capable of change. What if we do all that? Will you forgive us? I might. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the last 34 years didn't happen. It means we build something new, with new boundaries, based on who you become, not who you were. She left that day without agreeing to therapy, but she stopped calling constantly. The harassment shifted to social media, passive-aggressive posts about ungrateful children and family loyalty that everyone in our small community understood were directed at me. The social media campaign backfired spectacularly. People who knew our family history started commenting their support for me and Emma. Former neighbors shared their own observations about how I'd been treated differently than my siblings. My high school friends posted memories of times I'd been excluded from family events and had to spend holidays with their families instead. The public nature of the support was embarrassing for my parents, who'd spent decades maintaining the image of a perfect family. For the first time, their friends and neighbors were questioning their parenting. Robert called me during this time with an offer I hadn't expected. Harry, Carol, and I have been talking. We'd like to formally adopt you. Dad, I'm 34 years old. We know it's symbolic, but we want to make it official that you're our son. We want your children to have grandparents who've never excluded anyone, never played favorites, never made love conditional. The adoption ceremony happened at the courthouse 2 weeks before our wedding, with just Emma and Carol as witnesses. It was a simple legal procedure that felt more emotionally significant than anything my biological family had ever done for me. When the judge asked why we were pursuing adult adoption, Robert answered, "Because family is about choice and commitment, not just genetics. We choose Harry as our son." Walking out of that courthouse with legal parents who'd chosen me as an adult felt like the final piece of healing I needed. I wasn't just escaping my childhood family. I was officially becoming part of a family that wanted me. That evening, my biological parents called together, both on speakerphone. "Harry, we've been thinking about what you said, about therapy, and we're willing to try it. If that's what it takes to be part of your life." It was the first time in my life they'd been willing to change their behavior for me, instead of demanding that I change for them. Okay, family therapy. All 5 of us, you, me, Emma, Sarah, and Michael. And individual therapy for both of you to work on understanding the patterns. Sarah and Michael don't think they need therapy. Then Sarah and Michael don't get access to our family. This isn't negotiable. 3 weeks later, we had our first family therapy session with Dr. Martinez. It was brutal. My parents spent most of the session defending their choices and minimizing the impact of their behavior. Sarah and Michael spent their time complaining about being dragged into my problems, but slowly, over months of sessions, something began to shift. My mother started to see how her anxiety about family trips being perfect had led her to eliminate anything she perceived as a threat to that perfection, including her own son's needs and feelings. My father began to understand how his automatic support of my mother's decisions had made him complicit in my emotional abandonment. Sarah and Michael had to confront their own selfishness in benefiting from my exclusion while staying silent about the injustice. It wasn't a miracle transformation. There were setbacks, arguments, sessions where progress felt impossible. But for the first time in our lives, my family was being forced to examine their behavior instead of just expecting me to accept it. The real test would come when our baby was born. Emma and I were married on a perfect October day with 200 guests in attendance. My biological family received invitations but chose not to come, saying they needed more time to process everything. Robert walked me down the aisle instead, and Carol helped Emma get ready like she was her own daughter. The wedding was everything I'd never experienced at family events. Joyful, inclusive, celebrating love instead of excluding it. Emma's grandmother, Rose, now 93, gave a speech about how love grows stronger when it's shared freely rather than rationed carefully. Harry and Emma have shown us that family isn't about perfect people making perfect choices, she said. It's about imperfect people choosing to love each other through imperfection. 6 months later, Daniel James Peterson Richardson was born, named after my grandfather and Emma's grandfather, carrying on the legacy of the men who'd shown us what unconditional love looked like. The moment they placed Daniel in my arms, I felt something I'd never experienced before, the absolute certainty that this child would never doubt his place in our family. He would never wonder if he was wanted, never question whether he belonged, never have to earn his spot at our table. My first words to him were a promise. You will never doubt that you're loved, little man. You will always know you belong. Emma's family embraced Daniel like they'd embraced me, immediately, completely, without reservation. Carol and Robert became the kind of grandparents who showed up to every milestone, who babysat without being asked, who created photo albums and memory boxes and traditions specifically for Daniel. The real test came when Daniel was 3 months old. My biological family, still in therapy and making slow progress, asked to meet their grandson. We want to start over, my mother said during one of our sessions. We want to do better. Dr. Martinez facilitated the meeting at our house, with specific boundaries Emma and I had established. They could visit for 2 hours, with Emma and me present the entire time. They could hold Daniel and interact with him, but any comments about parenting or family dynamics would end the visit immediately. Watching my mother hold Daniel for the first time was complicated. She was gentle with him, genuinely happy to meet him, but I could see her trying to establish some kind of claim over him. He looks just like Harry did as a baby, she said. Same eyes, same little nose. He looks like himself, Emma corrected politely but firmly. And he's lucky to look like his daddy. My father was more reserved, but I caught him staring at Daniel with something that looked like regret. After they left, my mother called me. Harry, holding Daniel, made me realize something. I can't imagine excluding him from anything. I can't imagine a scenario where I'd think he didn't belong with us. Then maybe you can understand how excluding me felt. I'm starting to, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was the first real apology I'd ever received from her, and while it didn't erase 34 years of pain, it felt like the beginning of something different. Over the following months, my parents made genuine efforts to change. They invited Emma and me to family dinners and actually listened when we spoke. They asked about our lives, our plans, our experiences. They started treating Emma like a daughter instead of an intruder. The real breakthrough came when they invited us to join a family vacation, a weekend at a lake house they'd rented for everyone. We want you there, Harry, my father said. All 3 of you. We want to do this right. It was terrifying to accept. After 34 years of exclusion, the idea of being included felt almost too good to be true. But Emma encouraged me to try. If they mess this up, we leave. But if they don't, Daniel gets to see what it looks like when people choose to do better. The weekend wasn't perfect. There were moments when my mother fell back into old patterns of criticism, times when Sarah and Michael seemed resentful of the attention Emma and I received. But there were also moments of genuine connection. Watching my father teach Daniel to fish, seeing my mother genuinely enjoy Emma's company, having conversations with my siblings that went beyond surface pleasantries. It felt like meeting my family for the first time. On our last morning at the lake, my mother pulled me aside. Harry, I need you to know something. The therapy has helped me understand that I was scared of you. Scared of me? Scared of your sensitivity, your needs, your emotions. They reminded me of parts of myself I'd been taught to hide. Excluding you was easier than dealing with my own issues. Mom, I was a child. It was your job to help me with my needs, not exclude me because of them. I know that now. I failed you, and I'm sorry. I can't change the past, but I want to be different going forward. That conversation didn't fix everything, but it helped me understand that my mother's rejection hadn't been about my worth as a person. It had been about her own fears and limitations. Today, 2 years later, our relationship is still a work in progress. We have regular family dinners now, and I'm included in planning for holidays and celebrations. My parents have met Emma's parents and actually developed a friendship with them. They've learned to respect our boundaries and acknowledge when they slip back into old patterns. More importantly, they've become grandparents who show up for Daniel. They attend his doctor appointments when we need backup, babysit when we want date nights, and most importantly, they include him in everything they do. Daniel will grow up knowing his biological grandparents as people who choose to include rather than exclude. But the greatest gift in all of this has been watching Daniel grow up surrounded by Emma's family. He calls Robert and Carol Grandpa Bob and Grandma Carol, and they spoil him with the kind of unconditional love I discovered as an adult. He has cousins who automatically include him in games, aunts and uncles who remember his favorite foods, and a family culture that celebrates everyone's presence instead of looking for reasons to exclude. Last month, we took Daniel on his first big family vacation, a trip to Hawaii with Emma's extended family to celebrate her grandmother Rose's 95th birthday. Watching Daniel play on the beach, surrounded by 15 people who adore him, I realized something profound. I didn't just escape a family that excluded me. I created a family that celebrates inclusion. Daniel will grow up understanding that love isn't something you have to earn or prove you deserve. He'll know that healthy families make space for everyone's needs and feelings. He'll never experience the anxiety of wondering if he's welcome at his own family's table. The life lesson in all of this isn't just about family dysfunction or emotional abuse or inheritance disputes. It's about understanding that some relationships require complete restructuring before they can be healthy, and some people need to see real consequences before they're motivated to change. But more than that, it's about learning to recognize unconditional love when it's offered to you, and having the courage to choose that love over familiar dysfunction. For 34 years, I fought for scraps from people who saw me as a burden. Now I'm surrounded by people who see me as a gift. The difference isn't in me. I was always worthy of love and inclusion. The difference is in them, in their capacity to love without conditions. Emma was right when she said I didn't lose a family. I found my real family and built an even better one. Sometimes the family that raises you isn't the family that's meant to sustain you. Sometimes you have to have the courage to choose the people who choose you back. Family isn't about blood or obligation or tradition. Family is about who shows up, who celebrates you, and who makes space for you at their table. Choose your family wisely, and never settle for conditional love. As I watch Daniel splash in the waves, held safely by his Grandpa Bob while his Grandma Carol takes pictures, I know he'll never have to learn this lesson the hard way. He'll grow up knowing he belongs, knowing he's wanted, knowing he's celebrated just for being himself. And that, more than any inheritance or vacation or legal victory, is the greatest gift I can give him. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt excluded from your own family's experiences? How did you handle relationships where love felt conditional? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling with similar family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like to help others find it. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about overcoming family challenges and building healthier relationships. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this message about choosing family wisely, please share this video with them. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that you deserve unconditional love and a place at every table that matters. Until next time, keep choosing the people who choose you back.